Alright, so we're going to continue working on the car. So let's go and set our project. Bum bum, 2510, work. Also, before I do that, I haven't opened anything inside here. I've just opened Maya. Get in the habit of not opening anything, just going right through here, setting your project, and then going to open, and then finding your most recent file, which in my case is that one. Okay. So if you remember from last time, we left off with the we did the grates, we did the radio face, we did the AC controls here. We've already done that, and so now we're on to the stick shift area. And this is one area that I want you just to understand that, you know, in everything that we do, we're not going to be setting this up in a way. I don't set up my lectures in a way that, you know, is always predictable. And sometimes I kind of bounce around and try to, you know, walk you through the process of how it actually happens in the real world, because that's more important than me saying, follow step 1, follow step 4, and you'll get this every single time, because it never ever works. So in this case, I want to create a piece here for the stick shift. And just like always, we go to Google and we type in stick shift, so we get an idea of what that's going to look like. And I really like this image here. In this case, I don't want to go with the metal one. I want to go with more of like the baggy one, something like that. So that's what we're going to be going for. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're going to try to create this little baggy shape in this, and it's a very organic shape. And there's actually a seam. In this case, it's right in the back of this. Sometimes there's a seam. Maybe not that one specifically, but on some of these, like this guy, you can see there's a seam running down each side of this. Okay. So I'm going to try to create the one with the 4 seams, and if it just becomes too difficult, then we'll just create the one with 1 and just kind of simplify it. Alright, so the first thing, I need a curve that's going to match this shape. Well, if you remember from my hoarding, I like to keep all my curves, so there is that curve that I have. If you don't have that curve, you can just remake one that's, you know, close enough. I'm just going to duplicate it. I'm going to right click on the layer and say remove the selected object, hide my other curves, and now I have it just kind of floating around. Okay, and once I'm done, I'll put it back on the curve layer. So if we look at the shape of one of these guys, oops, let's say this guy here, it starts off with a squarish shape, and then it turns into this roundish shape. Okay, so that's what we're going to try to do. So here is the curve. Oops. I'm going to hit Control A because I just want to see something on here. This form is set to open. Its degree is set to 3. That's what I want to make sure is the degree is 3. Okay, here we go. If I right click and go to Control Vertex, there's a lot of vertices on here. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate this. So back to F8, hit F8 until I go to green. I double click it, or I Control D duplicate it. And then I'm just going to scale it down. And then I'm going to shape this into a circle shape. Okay, so I'm going to go to my top view. And it doesn't have to be a perfect circle shape, but I just want to get it as, you know, nice as I can. So I'm just going to scale these out, and then grab these guys here. And just kind of bring these in a little bit more. And I'm just reshaping this. That's all I'm doing. Just reshaping these points to get it to look more circular. Okay. Now I have to be careful of stuff like this. You see that these points are actually very, very sharp. So I just have to make sure I don't kind of screw those up. I'm going to keep them nice and smooth. These guys I'll pull out a little bit. There we go. Okay. So I basically got this to be pretty round. It's not perfectly round. If I put a circle right underneath it, you'd see that I'm really far off as far as getting that shape to look exactly round. But it does a good enough job that we'll be able to kind of pass that off. Okay, so now I have this shape that I'm just going to shove down into here. I have this shape which is up there, and I'm just going to go to Surfaces and go to Loft, option box. Default settings should be fine. Yes, that's fine. I'm going to hit Loft, and that worked. Okay, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I'm going to hit Control A. I'm going to go to the section spans, and I'm just going to add in a couple section spans, maybe 4. Okay. Because what this is going to allow me to do is just give it some basic shape. Right now it's just very static and straight, where this is kind of loose. You know, that's what I want, kind of loose. So I'm going to go to my hulls, and I'm just going to click on, this is the second from the bottom hull, and I'm just going to give it a little scale out. Okay, then I can use my arrow keys on the keyboard up and down. Just kind of give this a little bit more shape and definition. There's no rule to this. This is just me kind of imagining this is clay. I'm just kind of sculpting it like it was clay. Okay, so I'm kind of pushing it towards the back a little bit, just deforming it in a more organic type way. Trying to give it the feel that it's more of a fabric-y or leathery material than it really is. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Alright, so now let's go to right-clicking with isoparms. I'm going to click here and here and say Edit NURBS, Insert Isoparms. Between, let's say, 4. That looks like a good amount. And then between these two, I'll hit Apply again. Isoparms again. And between these two, I'll do another 4. And between these two, we'll do another 4. Okay? That's good. I also want to go this way and add 4. So I'm just hitting G to redo that command. So I'm just grabbing basically where these separations were and just adding more divisions. And what this is going to allow me to do is sculpt it in a more organic way. Now this one I have to be careful. If you look, this one's a double. It's a little bit thicker. So when I click on this and I hit Add, you'll see that none got added here, but some did get added around this. Okay. So in this case, what I do is I slide this over and then Shift click and then Add. And it's just a little quick way to get that past it. Now you'll also notice that there's a little bit of a seam happening right here, or a little bit of, I don't know, it's a little more obvious that that's where the seam is. It's hard to see, but it's there. I don't care about that because my camera is going to be over here, so I'm not even going to see it. Okay, so now that we have enough divisions on this, I'm going to go to my Edit NURBS and go to Sculpt Geometry Tool, option box. And I'm going to hold down B, left click and drag to make this super duper tiny. Hold down M, shrink this down, because right now it's at like 6, which is a lot. I'm going to change this mode to push. Nope. Pull. Look how big that arrow is. That's too big. Let me Alt B this just to change the background just so you can see it better. So I'm going to hold M again and drag this down to a smaller size. There we go. Okay. I also have Auto Smooth on, which is going to help keep this smooth. Alright, so I'm just going to click and drag, say, wow, that's way too much. Hit undo. Hold down M, shrink it down even more. Maybe even take my opacity down some. And then just click and drag a bit more. And try it out and see. Hit undo. I also have under display, I have show wireframe off. You may want to keep that on, it's up to you. There we go. So I'm just kind of deforming this a little bit. And then I'm going to go through with my smooth and try to smooth this out. You can see why, sometimes we have to really play with these, because you just get these like funky things that happen just for no apparent reason. I mean, I'm sure in my own world that there's a reason for why it's doing what it's doing. We hit undo. It just doesn't like me hitting these corners too much. So I'm just going to try to avoid that corner too much and just try to pull out some of the stuff that's in the middle. So I'm going to shrink my brush down. And if I hit it a little bit, that's going to be fine. But I just don't want to go too close to it that I'm getting that weird look to it. Okay, and this is just giving the leather just a little bit of texture to it. So it's not a perfectly flat item. And that'll actually help, because if we have these seams kind of too messy, it'll be hard to make it look like it's an actual seam. You have to be careful here. If I pull this, you can see I'm actually opening the surface. So I just want to be careful about that area. Like I said, we're not going to see it, but I just want to be careful of it. Alright, I'm going to do a little smooth here. See, the smooth just doesn't want to cooperate there. Which is very odd, but whatever. See, the smooth is like pushing it that way, which is very, very odd for it to be doing that. There's also an erase in here, one of these guys, slide erase. So if I do mess up one of those edges, I can just go back with erase and just erase it. There we go. So that looks sufficient. All right. Now if I decided at some point that I kind of messed up and I need to change something, I still have my original curve here, so I could always scale this down or scale that up or give it a little bit of rotation or move it. And here I haven't deleted the history yet, so I still have that ability. Oops. Okay, so it looks like this actually comes a little bit more forward like that. So I'm going to leave it like that. That's perfect. Okay, and you can see how that kind of looks more clothy than just kind of like leaving it the straight way that it was a few minutes ago. Okay, so there's our stick shift. I'm going to scale this down, I think, a touch, just like that. Yeah, that should be good. I'm not going to delete the history on this yet. I'll just keep it for now. All right. So now for this top part here, I actually like not that kind of design. I like these round ones, like this one. I like this design here. It's just nice and simple. It's got a little inset in there and a little bit of design. Okay. I'm going to use a polygon sphere for that. So polysphere. Drop this in here. It's eventually going to be rotated, but I want to keep it straight for now, so I'm just going to undo my rotation. And I'm just sizing it up. That's all I'm doing right now, just kind of sizing it into position. Looking at something like this, where these two come together, you can see there's like a little bit of a bib, or a little bit of a transition right there, so we'll get that transition as well. And I'll also start tucking some of these points in on the other one once I'm done. Okay. We're not done modeling this yet. I just want to get some of the other pieces in here to give me an estimate of how big things should be. So maybe that can come up just a tiny bit more. Yeah, we'll just say that's good. I'll make this a little bigger. Maybe make the initial curve just a tiny bit smaller. There we go. Something like that. Okay, so now let's go and just add a little bit of definition. So I'm just going to go to face mode on here, and I'm going to actually go inside it, and I'm going to marquee these points, or these faces, and then I'm going to hit Shift greater than, and you can see how it selects greater pieces of this, and I'm going to go to Edit Mesh, and Duplicate Face, that's what I want. Okay, so what this does is it creates a duplicate of those points. So I'm going to go to object mode, click off, click back on it, and you'll see that there's like a dashed line right here. Okay, that means that I have two faces on top of each other. So if I hold shift and marquee that piece, now I have that extra piece. So I can center pivot it and just set it up above it for now. Okay, so now what I can do is grab those faces again. There we go. And do I need to know how many I went out? No, I can just kind of look at this other one up here. If I go to the top view, I'll definitely be able to see it. And see that I do have that exact spot. Okay, or I can count them and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's good enough. So now I'm going to extrude and just push this down and flatten it a little bit. And push it down some more and scale it. There we go. Okay, so that just creates a little inset so that now when I take this and reset its Y, that's going to fit perfectly on top of it. Okay, and if we look at that one that I like, not that one, this one, it's hard to see from this angle, but it comes up and it kind of like matches it pretty good. Okay. And obviously this one's more oval, this one is more rounded. That's fine, it all works. I could even go into my polysphere. No, I can't, never mind. I could tweak things around, but I think it's going to be good like this, just having it nice and round. Keep it simple for us. Okay, now we can add a little bit of design work to this. So I'm just going to grab some faces here. All right, that didn't work out the way I wanted. Let me go to the side view. Okay, I'm just going to marquee across these two faces right down the center line. There we go. Okay, so it's right down the middle, and then I'm just going to extrude it and just push it in a little bit, extrude it again, maybe give a little bit of offset, extrude it again, push it in again. There we go. All right, so now we just have like some fancy little design in there, nothing crazy, just something kind of neat. We could also just grab random faces too, like not random ones, but let's say every other one. Might be too repetitive. Let's go like this. And we'll do 2, 2, skip 2, skip 2. And hopefully our math works out right, that we are going to grab the right ones. Perfect. Okay, and you can see that we have the same spacing in all these. I'm going to go to wireframe, make sure I don't have anything else selected. Then just do an extrude on these. Knock the offset in some. Extrude again with G. Push it in a little bit. And there we go. Okay, so now we just have this fancy little design. If we hit 3 to smooth it out, you'll see the kind of shape that we're going to get from that. And then this guy comes off a little bit, no big deal. We can just tuck him in. Okay, so you see how we can create these really nice looking designs just by adding a couple extrusions in here. I also hit 3 on that guy. Okay, so now let's create this little, fix this area here. So I'm going to delete the history on this. And I'm going to go to hulls, not isoparms. And I'm going to try to grab this top one here. If I can't grab the top one, I'll grab whichever one I can and use my arrows. Then I'm just going to scale it in and pull it down some. Okay. Now that gives me that little lip right there. Then what I can do is just create a cylinder. Now this is a NURB cylinder. I could have obviously used a polygon cylinder also, but I think a NURBS will be sufficient. And I'm not worried about the sphere placement right now. I'm just worried about this transitional piece. So I'm just kind of getting this into position, trying to make it look like it's actually a transitional piece. There we go. And maybe I can grab some of these points in the bottom and just kind of push them in a little bit. Make it appear that it's kind of like tucked or pinched. And one of the nice reasons about, or nice things about using a NURBS is that it's still going to keep it kind of smooth. One of the bad things is if I wanted this to be solid, I'd have to do some extra work. All right, so that should be good. We have a little transition there. If I want to, I need to grab all of this, Control G to group it, center pivot it, and then rotate it into position. There we go. So that should be good. So that's our stick shift. Cup holder thing is done, just for fun. This is just like a storage area. If we want to do a cup holder, I'm not going to go through the whole process of this. I have other videos on YouTube if you want to check those out. But essentially what we would do is take a couple circles. Oops. Create a square. And what I would do is use my intersection tools and my filleting tools to create this kind of surface. Okay, to create this whole setup here. So let me just go through. I'm just going to show the cutting of this up. So I'm just going to say cut curve, and now this is basically broken this into pieces that I could then go through and do some fillets, oops, on these corners and get a nice blend. Then I could project it onto here and then use that as my way to create the rest of that. Okay, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I think this is technical, difficult enough without adding that little bit of extra pieces into it. Okay, so now let's grab everything. Let's delete the history. Let's go through and start organizing some of our stuff. I have some curves hidden here, so I'm going to turn off surfaces. I'm going to marquee everything. Make sure those are on my curves layer. There they are. Turn surfaces back on. Go to my outliner. And just go through and start organizing the rest of the stuff. So this is all my stick shift stuff. I'm going to group it, center pivot it, stick shift. Here's a couple extrusions. Okay, this guy I really don't think I need. Well, I might need him. Alright, that's just part of the base, All these fillets are part of the base. For now, go up here and grab these. Alright, these are all part of the base, so I'm just going to group these and just call this base. That's my placeholder group. This is my NURB square. I don't think I need that anymore. That's on my curves layer, so I'm just going to middle drag it into curves. Here's some base things. I'm just going to drop those into base. Just using middle mouse button. Here's back and left. I can delete those cameras. I don't need them. This is part of the base too. Just middle drag that in. Here's bottom and perspective 1. I can delete those. NURB square, delete that. P-sphere 1. I can delete that. It's nothing. Polyplane 1. There's nothing in here. It's all white. So you can delete that. Alright, so everything's nice and organized here. Wonderful. Now let's go out into our layers and turn all the layers off and see what we have left. So we still have this, which is our stick shift. So we'll just add a new stick shift group or layer. Make sure we're typing in here. Stick shift layer. And then the rest of this is just base. So just marquee that. Call this base layer. There we go. So now again, we hide everything on our layers. Everything else gets hidden. So I can just pull all the stuff back on. Advanced storage layer. Old parts I don't need. Everything else should be there. Good. Okay, that's everything. Alright, so now let's save this. Okay, and I'm going to stop the video here, but the next video we'll cover is going to be the lighting, and then cameras and texturing and all that other fun stuff.